Greetings and hello, Internet. We are live with episode 195 of Voices of Revival. We are joined tonight by Jordan Guinn. Tonight's cast is a part of our 21 days in a row of podcasts. During this run, we are just kind of leaning into testimonies of Jesus. We are inviting people to come and share their stories, to share their life before Christ and what Christ has brought them out of. The moment we lean into like the moments of transformation, and if time permits, right, like tell us what God is doing. But tonight we've got Jordan Guinn. Jordan, let's just get right into it. What's your story, my friend?
Okay, so I got a pretty crazy story. I'm only 21. A lot of people may think I'm older after I tell them some of the things that I've gone through. But super excited just to be on and share my story today. So, kind of started when I was young. I was born into addiction and brokenness right off the bat. I was removed from my biological parents at the age of 3 years old. So looking back, honestly, from 3 to about 10, I'm really foggy on what happened in those years, just because of so much of just drug use between my parents. And I mean, there's just a ton of things that I don't really have a lot of clarity with. So just been seeking the Lord for that. But I do remember there was a lot of confusion, instability, and just always longing for love and security in a family. So I was adopted at a young age, hoping, for a fresh start. At age 4, I believe it was, is when I was adopted with a family. Um, and things, were pretty normal for the most part, until I was about 10 years old. Um, Around 10 to 12, abuse and fear just became the new normal in our home. I remember when we would cry, they would put their hands over our mouth and nose so we couldn't breathe, and they're like, you stop crying, like cut it out, cut it out. Like it was supposed to be normal. And especially at that age, at 10 to 12, you don't really understand what's going on. And so it was terrifying. It was very terrifying. And I can remember back in the winter time, if we didn't bring the animals in fast enough, that we'd be forced to stand outside in freezing temperatures with barely any clothes on to teach us a lesson. Like these were legit things that happened while I was away from my biological family that everyone thought was so bad, and I was adopted into a family that everybody thought was great. And from the outside, it may have looked that way. But and I mean, I remember watching my brother get kneed in the ribs and in the stomach because he didn't fold the laundry the way they wanted. So just lots of terrible things that really happened in those years, and so grew up with just a lot of different emotion. Um, Really didn't understand what it meant to be loved and meant to being parented. Didn't really know the difference of what it meant to be parented. And around that time, it just lots of fear, yelling, abuse. Like their marriage wasn't great, so there was a lot of like blaming back and forth and division and sides, and it's just like I just wanted to feel loved, especially from coming from drug addiction and just lots of other things. And so most of my life, I grew up really angry, confused, and really just hating people around me because of all the things that I had gone through. Um, I really, I believed in God. I just didn't understand why God would allow me to go through these things. And at 13 years old, I started using alcohol and vaping to cope with the pain, because that's what everybody else was doing. They were vaping and partying every Friday and Saturday, and that's what I did. I did it just for quite a while, actually. I remember watching my brother removed from our home in handcuffs because the abuse had gotten so bad that he started to fight back. And the police, of course, took the parent's side because that's what they typically do. And so watched him get drug out in handcuffs and just in my mental space and emotional space was very at a breaking point of just not understanding. We talked to the bus driver that we were being bussed on for school, and would explain just the things that are going on and how people would not believe us. And we would talk to CPS, and they were like, "We can't do anything." That's pretty much what we were told. We can't do anything. You guys are just gonna have to pretty much suck it up. And so as most people, I really just didn't know how to deal with this, and so I attempted to take my own life by taking a large amount of pills because I didn't want to feel the pain anymore. Um, there was many times that the pain just felt so much that I couldn't handle it, and there was also times I remember wrapping a blanket around my head, around my neck, and just hoping that I wouldn't wake up that next morning. Um, but I but I always woke up because God is good. But you know, going through these different things, I have always asked myself, like, why wasn't I out? Like, why one of those times that, I mean, that blanket was pretty tight. I remember I'd go like, really pull that thing, and just trying to understand why am I still here? Like, what are you doing? Like, who is this? Like, what's going on? Just really confused. And a lot of hopelessness, honestly. And so at 14 years old, I went to a church camp where I can say I experienced God for the first time. I was saved, and it happened during a worship and prayer service. I literally just found myself walking to the altar before I could even put my foot in front of the other. And before I know it, I was up at the altar, laying it all down, surrendering it, and just asking God to heal me from the inside out. Um, I honestly, really, I was young. I still just really didn't understand what was going on and why these things were happening. I just knew I was tired of feeling just broken, empty, and just really hopeless, honestly. Um, and so I cried out to God, and I was saved. And in that time, I felt peace. And I felt these weights being lifted off of me, and that things were gonna be okay in the end, and I didn't have to worry anymore. And so I got back from camp, and a lot of people, have these camp highs, and this is why I advocated for it so much. But I had that camp high for about 3 weeks, and then I was right back to doing exactly what I said I didn't want to do. I ended up in just a cycle of vaping and drinking, and just trying to find the next best thing, really, to ease the pain of how things were at the house, because they weren't great. And then shame and identity, would pop up, and just really didn't understand what was going on and why. And so then March 19th of 2020, my adopted father beat me so badly I ended up with a concussion. And it was another one of those moments that you're like, what the heck is going on? Why am I going through these things? What did I do so badly that is, making these things happen to me? It's like I just got saved, and not too long after, I'm getting beat. Like, for real beat. Like, it's not even just a little, paddle on the butt or nothing. It's like, I mean, he struck me in the head multiple times and left me with a concussion. And I just remember that night, my head had hurt so badly. I remember I didn't sleep at all that night. And that next morning, I dialed up CPS, and they said, "Look, you come get me or I'm running away." Like, that's the two options. And it wasn't, but 20 minutes later, they had shown up, and they asked my parents at the time, did this happen? They said yes. And I was taken out of the home. One thing that just still blows my mind to this day is, first of all, they were never got in any trouble. And second of all, that the other siblings were still in the house. They didn't remove them. And I think, like, I hung on to that for so long because I couldn't understand why. Um, and so this was like right before COVID. This was like March of 2020. So I believe it was like right when schools were releasing for that 9 months or however long it was for COVID. And so they couldn't have people going to foster homes. So I went to a place called a group home. And in this time of going there, phew, it was another very scary part in my life. It was like these people that were there were just unhealthy people, honestly, very, very juveniles, really. That's the best word I can put it. There was multiple times that I was threatened for my life, and other things physically and sexually and all of these things, just on a daily basis, while I was living there and trying to also cope with my parents, this thing happening, from being beat so bad. And there's just so many things going on in my head. Like I'm just not understanding what's going on, why, and just a lot of hurt, just more than anything. And so I was there for about um, mm, 3 or 4 months, I believe. And then I was placed with a foster family that I had known previously. Um, I had kind of I believe I did like I think it was like a diversion program called Y Try, and I had met her name's Amy. I met their family, and so as they actually took me in at this time, and so went and stayed with them, and things were better. They were very involved in the church and very good people, honestly. They were very good people. They treated me right. There was just a lot of things from all of these things that have happened that I didn't know how to cope with. And that were just so hurtful that when somebody would try to love me and somebody would try to show me that care, I pushed it away because I just thought everybody was going to be like the people that I had experienced before. And I didn't understand. That's just what it came down to. I didn't understand. I was young, and no young child should have ever went to any of the things that I did. And so it just caused a lot of like PTSD and just hurt that had built up so much to where I just rejected anything that looked like a family. And so as much as I wanted to be in a family, I just couldn't do it. And so um, it wasn't too long after I had started living there that the adopted family um, had terminated rights. They decided they didn't want me anymore at all and they weren't going to try for me anymore. So they told CPS, he's yours, do whatever. And so that was another thing that really ripped me apart. The family that was supposed to love me because my family couldn't love me now couldn't love me either. And I just like struggled with that so bad. And all I wanted to feel was a part of a family. And so, and through that, um, I ended up leaving the Charles family, which is who I was with for about 2 years. They just weren't able to adopt me. They had some circumstances that didn't allow for that. And went and stayed with a buddy for a little while. And they had obtained full custody of me. So I was out of the system. But I mean, even through that, they were trying to love me as a family, and I was just pushing it away, pushing it away. I didn't want anything that looked like a family. They had hurt me too bad. I didn't want that. And so stayed with them for a while. And then once again, things happened to where at this point it wasn't CPS that stepped in. It was just I was aging out of the system. And so went and stayed with another friend just for a little while. And just through those years, I think maybe like a year, I think is how long I was there. Um, I just went and stayed with him for a little while, and it was pretty good. It was just living with a buddy. It's kind of like one of those things. I don't know. It's you're just staying with a buddy. You're just kind of there. His parents did make me feel like I belonged, but it was just one of those things. You're just there. And so I had turned 18 at this point, and that meant I would start having to pay for rent, and things were going up, and their rent was going up because they lived in some apartments that like adjusted basis of how much people are making in the house. And so I was gonna move out, and I planned to be, completely on my own. I'm like, if these families can't do this for me and they can't do this, I'm gonna go do it for myself because that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do it. Everything's gonna be okay. So I was working at a place called Buckeye Jake's in West Alexandria, and was talking one day with the owners, which you didn't really see them often. But I was talking with them one day and said, I don't really know what else I'm doing. I don't know where to go. I want to go to this place, and this place just denied me. So I'm just gonna stay in my car. I'll be okay. And so they offered for me to come stay with them, and that's what I did. I went and I stayed with them, and I think it was just a couple of months later they asked to adopt me. And I was 18 at this point, so I'm like, 18 years old. Like, I don't really know. Like, I'll think about it. And just something in me was like, you have found your family, and that's all I ever wanted. That's secretly deep down all I ever wanted, even though I couldn't admit that, and that I pushed everything away that looked like that. That's what I wanted. And so, in November of 2022, they adopted me. And it's family, and you're always going to have problems. That's just family. And so, I just kind of went back and forth with just this constant cycle of just drinking and just terrible vaping addiction that is still there at age 18 from 13. Um, and just really battled it really bad. I would drink a lot, would vape a lot. Still, I've got the family now, but it's like I'm still in these habits, and I'm still just walking in what the world is telling me to walk in. And so got through school, graduated, all these things, everything's great. I worked in a factory, I'm like, I'm gonna be good. I got money, I got this, like I'm good. And bought a house even, and even through that, I was like, I started to develop, I want what I didn't have as a child. And that's a dangerous mentality, honestly, because then you're fighting um, for you, and you're not allowing people to help you, and people to be there for you like they want you to be. You find materialistic things, and I mean, you're buying hundreds of dollars of clothes and just expensive things, and that's where your worth is. And so I just really battled with that. And then March of 2024, I went on a spring break trip with a bunch of friends from high school to Florida. And on that trip, I just made terrible decisions, honestly. I took pills, I drank alcohol, and I just partied in ways that I'm never going to say that I'm proud of. And while it felt like it was a getaway and that I was doing all of these things that I should have been doing, I shouldn't have been. And even in this part of my life, I knew God. Didn't have a relationship with him, but I knew who he was. Um, but just still could not give over the control aspect of it. Um, and I remember there was one night, it was towards the end, all of my friends went into this strip club, and I was like, yep, nope, it's $80. I'm not paying $80 to get in there. Just paying 100%. I'm not doing it. And so I sat alone in the parking lot. And in that moment, I remember just breaking down, losing it completely, crying and just weeping, and didn't know why, and just heard this very small, still voice. This is not you. This is not what I've called you to do. And in that moment, I'm just like, whoa, I know who God is. I don't know him personally. This is crazy. What just happened? Um, but I knew that something had to change. And so when I got home, I couldn't keep living the same way anymore. I was I had gotten back from this trip and ran up every credit card I had really no money. My mortgage was behind, my car was behind, just all of these things. And just was at such a breaking point that I spent most of 2024 just really leaning into what God had for me. Um, just saying, God, whatever it is, I want it, I want it. Just really started distancing myself from the worldly things, just bad habits, environments, just everything, really just ghosted myself away from that. And God really just started changing the desires, my mindset, and my direction in life. And then there was It was around April of 2025, so it was last year now. There was an internship opportunity through the church, and I had contemplated it back and forth, and was like, yeah, I think it would be cool, and prayed about it, and I was like, I'm gonna do this. And so I signed up and had my interview and talked through it, and the director of the internship had called me and said, "Hey, we just want to let you know, like, we're gonna let you do this, and just wanted to know if you wanted to say yes now or you wanted to pray through it." And I said, "I'm gonna pray through it just to double check this is, what God wants me to do." And just for a preface here, like, I had just started a third shift job because I was such in debt. Like, I had to go get a job, like I had to really buckle down on some things, and so I would have been getting off at 7 a.m. and the internship would have been starting at 9 a.m. So I was willing to make this commitment. It would have been 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. So I was like, all right, I got this. 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. That's nothing. I'm gonna have 2 hours of sleep. I got this. I'm gonna do it. And so I remember I was sitting down or I was doing something, and I something popped up on Instagram, and it said something along the lines of stop. Um, what was it, man? Stop doing something that God is calling you to do. And in that moment, I knew, like, I have to say yes to this internship. And so I did, and I said yes. And the first day rolls around, and there's a lot of people that I don't know. And I'm just like, all right, God, I know what you're doing, but there's a lot of people I don't know, and I'm gonna just absorb this and hope for the best. And so second day rolls around, and I would have started going back to work at this point. And I remember calling my boss at the time and quitting the third shift job right there, and saying, I just don't think this is going to work. I'm going to quit because that's what I felt like God was telling me to do. And I didn't understand. I was living on my own. I had my mortgage payment. I had my own bills to pay. Like, I just truly didn't understand. Even at the time, like, I was living over by Oxford and I had to go to Lewisburg. So, like, very pretty good distance away to have to drive. And it's like, I don't know. God's telling me to do it. I'm gonna do it. I'm just gonna walk in what he has for me. Um, but I knew that God was just telling me to trust him. Just trust me, Jordan. I'm gonna get you through this. And so um I had just really started inserting myself into the church. Just really started serving with what we call our crew, just helping people that are coming in. And just got so sick and tired of the worldly me and godly me that I was ready to just say, I want to be a child of God. I don't want to be worldly me anymore. And so just through this internship, um, I can't even explain everything that it did because there's so many stories, but I surrendered over everything. Um, there was one time this was my first encounter with Jesus, like physical encounter. I remember we were doing a prayer service in the sanctuary in Lewisburg, and we were just listening to music, and I was just standing up, just raising my hands to the Lord, and um, I just remember, like, just saying the name Jesus, 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 and just through that, I just remember just thinking I'm surrendering all these things and whatnot, and um, just remember, like, having both hands in the air, and just remember him saying, like, now lay it at my feet. And so I got on my knees, and I laid it at his feet. And in that time, it was like, I don't even know how to describe this, but it was kind of like a tape, and I could just see my whole life, and it was just like playing through really fast. And and then it just got like slammed to the ground and broken into pieces. And I just remember seeing, like, Jesus just standing there. And it was just such a cool opportunity, first of all, to even be able to see that, but just for an encounter like that to mark me in my walk. And so, I mean, really, if you talk to anybody that did this internship, they would tell you just how dramatic the changes were in my life, from I was freed from this vaping addiction. I was freed from alcohol. I was freed from um, relationships and pornography and just so many other things. Just all at one time was just completely freed from them. Um, I was living in College Corner over by Oxford, and God actually moved me in Eaton, where I began youth ministry with Youth for Christ, and with Eaton Community of Faith. And I mean, even meeting like Ian with Haven and all of you guys, like I never would have met any of you guys if it wasn't for what God did bringing me out here. And so I even like with Awaken, like now, like never would have expected. Like it's going on a year now that I've been fully committed to Jesus, but never would have expected that's what God had in for me. So that's kind of a quick overview, I would say. Just to add, I guess, one more thing, in the time from graduating high school at 18 to um, I think it was 20, I had worked at a factory and then got my real estate license during that time. So I was trying to do better for myself. But even through that, I just didn't understand the concept of money and like what it was. I just thought, like, hey, we make money, we go spend it. Like that's what we do. But yeah, that's I don't know. It's been a crazy ride.
Bro, I think you're more Pentecostal than a lot of people. Than a lot of people. So let's reflect. Let's reflect, dude. You like there are these. I don't know how to say this. Like your childhood and what God brought you out of, like up through like you said you were 18 when like you like met your family, the
Yeah.
path to that, like I can't imagine everything you went through and what that would do to one's heart. And you talked about like these cycles that you lived through, and in the mix of it you were 14, the first time you encountered God at the youth camp. And as your story goes on, um, man, God's hand was on you through everything. And then the
Yeah.
encounter that you shared in that parking lot on that spring break trip, dude, I had cold chills as you were saying sharing that.
It was insane.
This is
Oh
not
my
you.
goodness. I remember just
This is not what I have called you to do. And then you shared that the encounter you had with that vision of Jesus. It's powerful, man. Let me ask you this. Let me ask you this. You made a comment about how you were fighting for you in the mix of like all of those cycles, right? You were fighting for you. What do you fight for now?
hmm. I would say that um I fight for I would say other
Yeah.
people for sure. I fight for other people to know who Jesus is and to know how he literally can transform your entire life.
I don't feel qualified to try and articulate the way you felt as as a teenager. I cannot imagine going through what you went through. What would you say to somebody whose story other people just can't put into words, right? Like, what would you say to that person as they're stuck in their cycles, pushing everyone away from them, right? Like, what would you say to that person?
Mm. Wow. Um, I would say the only reason that I was even able to see the cycle for what it was because the people that were surrounding me. And it wasn't anything that I was doing, it was everything that God was doing
Yeah,
that I had no idea. I mean, just truly, like, God put so many people in my life that I didn't understand why. And like some of them were lessons and some of them were for seasons, but it was still like a constant, like, just reminder of like He's with it. He's
yeah,
with you through every bit of it. So I guess my biggest thing would just be trust him. Like, even if you don't know who he is, and at that time I didn't. I just knew God. I didn't know, I didn't understand the trend. I didn't understand really anything. I just knew the name
yeah.
like God. And so I would just say trust. Just continue to trust in that because, if faith is the size of a mustard seed, like it'll move mountains. So literally that's what happened in my life. It moved mountains.
That's awesome. Something that has become very apparent to me as we have been doing this like 21-day run of podcasts and just asking people, hey, what's your story? Something that has become very apparent to me is man does not go and find God. God meets us where we are. Your
Exactly it. Yep.
story is a perfect case of that, right? Like God Himself sought you out.
Mhm.
And multiple stories, multiple testimonies that we have had on over the last week, they've been the same thing. And I am thankful that God sought me out as well. If you're listening to this and you don't know God, I would challenge you to open your heart and see His hand, because
Yeah.
just as He fought for Jordan, I promise you, He's fighting for you. Jordan, thank you so much for being here tonight and sharing your story. Incredibly powerful. Those who hung out with us live tonight, thank you. Those watching via replay, thank you. Uh, we'll do it again tomorrow. Deuces.